we kind of, as a family, inherited a horse. And of course, I was the only one at that time. I was living out of Springtown on a farm, so I was the only one in the family that had a place to put him. So he was at our house, but it really didn't belong just to me. It belonged more or less to the family. And Donnie would come out and ride some. Melba, I don't remember her ever coming out and riding. I don't think she was ever really interested in riding. Um, she had her own thing going, and um, but Donnie, he was interested in horses too. Maybe not quite as much as I was, but he still enjoyed riding. And I'm not sure, but Donnie might have had a couple of different horses. I know Dad brought in a large Shetland pony one time that he had bought somewhere, brought it in, and we kept him, I don't know, a while, and Daddy sold him. He really, uh, Donnie and I both could get on him, sit on him, and put our feet on the ground, so it really wasn't a lot of fun to ride him, so Dad got rid of him. Later on, after Sissy and I were married, we got to where, well, actually, I think I bought this horse before we actually had a place to put him. The people that we bought him from was a ranch out west of Fort Worth that we bought him from, and they said, well, you can just leave him out here for a while. And we did. He was a Palomino stud. He was a trick horse. He'd been taught tricks, and gosh, I thought I was really something having a trick horse. And I actually learned to make him do tricks, and I enjoyed him. And we finally rented a place out toward Jazel, and just had a garage apartment and a lot. And the lady had 60 or 70 acres, and she let us ride around over it and let us keep him in the lot, and then we rode out over the rest of the area. There was 30-something acres on one side of the road and 30-something on the other side. One side was mostly woods, and the other side had been mostly plowed at one time, so there wasn't a lot of woods on it, but there was a little bit. That's where Evelyn started, and Sissy started riding. I think when we were out there, she got to riding the Palomino stud. We kept him for a good while. I can't even recollect exactly when we got rid of him or why, other than the fact that we ended up with another horse, and that made two horses, and we wasn't real plush with money to buy feed. I was working on the north side down Exchange at one or two of the saddle shops down there at that time. One of the saddle shops bought rope in a huge coil, and I would bring a coil or two coils home, and Sis and I would get out in the yard of Eden and unroll them coils and cut them off in 28-foot and 30-foot lengths, and tie knots in the end and a hondo in the other end, and we would stretch them and rub them down with wax paper, and that helped us. That helped us feed our horses. The other horse I bought was a little young horse. had a little bit of Appaloosa blood in him, showed a little bit of spots on his hip, but he had never been broke. People had tried to ride him some, but never really broke him. And I didn't even have a saddle then. And a cousin, Smokey, he loaned me a saddle that he had. It was a 14-inch seat and 14.5-inch swells, and they didn't just come out straight, they come out and bent back, and it had a real high cantle on it, probably a 5-inch cantle, 4.5, 5-inch cantle on it. And I just kind of had to wiggle down in it, but the old horse would buck with me every once in a while, and I could stay with him. But finally, I give up on him. He throwed me 2 or 3 times, and I took him to a rodeo one night and told the contractor, I said, "I've got this horse out here. I'd like for you to try bucking tonight." He said, "Okay." Well, we brought him in, and this young man that I knew drew him and rode him and won first place on him. And contractor, he was kind of enthused, but he said that horse is too young. Said he'll quit bucking, and so he wouldn't buy him. I was wanting him to buy him, and there was a couple of boys that at school in the that had been in the rodeo club that I belonged to when I was in high school, and their dad had some money, and they had some land, and they had built them a rodeo arena. Well, they said, "Well, let us take him and try him one night," and said, "If he bucks, said, we'll buy him." And so I let him take him. And 2 or 3 days later, they brought him back and said, "Well," says, he just won't buck good." And well, I found out later that was the only horse they had out there that night. And they'd buck him and run him back in the chute and buck him again, and they bucked him 10 or 12 times. And the last couple of times, he just kind of run away. He was tired of bucking. And I didn't really appreciate him doing that, but there wasn't nothing I could do about it. But they decided they didn't want him, and so I took him back and started riding him, and he did a lot better after that. I ended up selling him to Smokey, and Smokey trained him. Smokey and Betty were doing a lot of play day things, and Smokey was into the thing where they had a lance, long stick, and they were at a dead run, and they would go and spear these rings that was sticking out on a stick. And he got real good at it, and I'm not real sure he won some awards and some pretty big contests, and so he ended up, him and that horse, being on the cover of one of the horse magazines. So he did real good. After somebody got him besides me, he did real good with it. Smokey was a good horse person. He was good with horses. He was raised on a farm and liked horses. He liked rodeo. He rodeoed some. So, but he did real good with the horse, and the horse did good for him.